So I'm Farook. I'm a full stack developer. So I've been working for talentship.io. I have experience in various technologies, both in front end and back end, and in databases, as well as I have worked in cloud technologies as well. So so this is a short intro on myself. So today we will be going to see some interesting topics. Okay, so what is NLP, and what all the use cases that NLP poses. Okay, so and what is actually the full stack development. So the full stack development can be made of any kind of tech stacks, right? So like we will see the possible tech stacks that we can leverage to develop scalable web applications. And we will getting started with uh, natural language processing and what are the terminologies that we have in natural language processing. And also we will be having our hands-on at the second half. Okay, so let us divide this session into two halves. So for the first half, like we will be having every concepts cleared. Okay, most of the concepts cleared. And on the second half, we will be implementing a chatbot, okay, with a NLU model. So why I'm saying NLU, in the sense we will be using a NLU platform, okay, which is natural language understanding platform, which is Google Dialogflow. We have several other platforms like this. So we will be leveraging this platform to build a chatbot model, and we will be integrating that model with our application. So we will be using React.js for the front end, and we will be using Node.js and Express that will act as our middleware. And for the database, we will be using MongoDB. Okay, so why we actually need a database here? So to get the history of conversations, so that we shall retrain the model again for better predictions in future. So for the purpose, like we will be storing all the logs that we have, that our chatbot like got all the like all these what to say, all these conversations, okay, from all these conversations. So those logs will be stored in our database, and we will be again after a stretch of time, like we will be feeding them to our chatbot model so that it will improve, okay, significantly. So without any further ado, I hope most of us have joined. Okay, overview on the topics today. Okay, so we will be seeing two things for the today's session. Like we will be seeing the full stack development and the technologies that we can actually use for a full stack web app. Okay, so that has to be scalable, and that has to less prone to errors. Okay, so like we have to build a web app in such a way that the user love to use it. Okay, so the stacks that we can like make use of to build a full stack application. And also the second thing is like we will be getting started with NLP. So what is NLP? So like it is actually a subdivision in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay, so the word artificial intelligence and machine learning, you might have come across these terms quite often. Okay, so the thing is like we will be like enabling the machines to understand the user queries. Okay, whatever the user is giving as an input, okay, the machine, the device has to be like intelligent enough to get what the user is saying or what the user is giving, okay, as the input. So it has to process in such a way that it gives a relevant output, okay, relevant answers or anything it may be. So then what is NLP? So NLP is a division, as I told. Like NLP is actually dealing with natural languages. Okay, in a words, like we can have it like in a linguistic basis, right? So natural language processing can be applied on all languages in the world. Okay, as we human, like we are from different regions in the world, like we are we are like experienced, okay, to understand and to speak our native language. So in such a way, like how we actually got more fluent in our language, it's because like we have practiced all these years. Okay, in the same manner we will be making the machines to practice, okay, by giving some mathematical algorithms to just understand what the user is giving, okay, and to process the input query, and the output has to be quite relevant to what the user is saying. So we can't achieve 100% accuracy, but we will be improving every now and then. Okay, so that is actually the machine learning and all the AI use cases will address. Okay, so we will be using Python for machine learning and data. Like we will let us see the agenda for today's session. Okay, so first we will be seeing what full stack development is and the scope of like being a full stack developer, okay, and all those things we will be seeing. And after that we will be seeing like the technologies that can be used for building scalable web apps, okay, and then we will be getting into the NLP. Okay, the first thing is full stack development and the second thing is like NLP, like the terminologies that are used in NLP, those things also will be discussed in today's session, and with some use cases, right? So after that we will be discussing on various NLP platforms that are available in the market, like Google Dialogflow, Amazon has Lex, okay, Microsoft has bot framework. So all these things, like all these platforms can be used to build chatbot model, okay, that can actually be integrated with the application. Okay, so that is actually be done in a very high level. Okay, so but the actual NLP model is it's like building a model from the very scratch. Okay, we are actually using a platform that has a model built in. Okay, but in most of the companies like Google or Facebook or any big giants, okay, even we have several AI based startups, okay, that are coming up. Okay, so those companies will build a model from the very scratch, either by using C++ or by Python with some raw data. Okay, and they will clean the data and they will process the data and they will feed the data so that the model can easily understand by using some mathematical expressions. Okay, so out of that data, like the model is now able to predict something. Okay, it cannot predict the exact the thing that we actually expecting, but it predicts something that at least relevant to the query input. Okay, so that's how our NLP use cases will be handled. Okay, so as you see, for an example, I can give you an example like Facebook. We all have used Facebook. Okay, like few years ago, like we haven't had a feature like translations. Okay, so after that we had a translations, but it was so like it was so bad at translating the things. Okay, so it does not those content are not so relevant to the actual content in the natural, like native language, something like that. Okay, and now if you see the translations, it has something like it is getting better and better every now and then, and it is giving some relevant answers. Okay, some relevant translations on the content that we are actually posting. So that's how the any machine learning model will emerge. Okay, so while we building, like while we are building it, like it is at the very scratch level, and we will be feeding more and more data to it, and it will actually be trained to that data and trained to that mathematical expressions, so that it will just perform like at least 80 to 90%, or like even more. Okay, those percentage of accuracy can be achieved by these training. Okay, so like we we will not be doing that. Okay, for today's session we will be using any one of the NLP platforms that we are actually having in the market. So we will be using Google Dialogflow for that. And once we will be starting with the Google Dialogflow, we will be working with our chatbot application. So as I told, like we will be using React for the front end and Express and Node.js that will act as our middleware. Okay, Node.js is our environment. Okay, so Express will act as our middleware, and for the database we will be using MongoDB. So the Dialogflow will actually be connected with our chatbot application. So before that, we have to build a model in Dialogflow, right? So we have a console in Dialogflow, so we will be making use of that. Okay, we will also we will also actually implement some extensive code. Okay, extensive logic that can be applied in our code base itself. So we cannot do everything on the Dialogflow console. I will show you that console, how it actually looks, what are the components are there in the console. And after that, for the few logics, we will be having webhook code. Okay, which means like we will be extensively we will give an extension so that this logic can actually be performed in my code base. Okay, so we will be hosting that code base in our node application itself. Okay, so we will be seeing that in our session. And after that, once we are building our React full stack chat applications, we will be integrating it with our chatbot. Okay, the NL module and with the chatbot. And after, like we will be going on with the testing. Okay, we will see some real-time conversations. Okay, with the chatbot. Once it is done, like we will be summarizing all those things that we have seen thus far. Okay, and we will be having a Q&A sessions. Okay, you can ask me the questions that you have after having our sessions at the very last few minutes in this session. Okay, so without any further ado, let us go on and getting started with full stack development and its scope. Okay, so as you know, the full stack development. Okay, so it is not just a front end and back end. Okay, so it is more than that. So we have to have handled database. Okay, so we have several databases that we can actually leverage that to store our data, to process our data, and to do some data engineering works. Okay, so if you see, like we have MS SQL Server, MySQL, like Postgres, and all these things are SQL databases, which means RDBMS databases. So we have, on the other hand, we also have NoSQL databases like MongoDB, Elasticsearch, and all those things that comes under NoSQL databases. Okay, so apart from these stacks, like we will also be deploying the application into our servers. Okay, so for the front end, we will be using a dedicated server, and for the back end, we will be using a dedicated server, or else we go serverless. Okay, so we will be handling APIs. Okay, so we will be making use of APIs to communicate between front end and back end. Okay, so the front end and back end communication can be achieved via API. And also we will be working on CI/CD, okay, which means continuous integration and continuous delivery. Okay, delivery or deployment. So anything as you prefer, like you can say it. But the thing is, like we will be we cannot do everything manually. Okay, we will automate certain steps. Okay, so what we actually do is, like we will be having our code in like in a GitHub or something like that, right? So source code management will be used to maintain our code. Okay, so that whenever we are doing some changes and we are pushing it to the GitHub. Okay, let's say it is GitHub. So it will actually triggers an CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so in that pipeline we will be defining like how to build our code that we have already developed. Okay, and we will be testing the code on the fly, and we will be deploying the code. Okay, in case of any issues, like we will be in a iteration on doing that again and again. Okay, so whenever there is a commit in our GitHub or GitLab or anything, Bitbucket, something like anything, if you have a commit, like if you push your changes into the code, like it will automatically trigger the CI/CD pipeline. So those things will automate the process to deploy our code. Okay, and also as I told, like version control we use GitHub, GitLab, like Git also we use, like SVN we have, Bitbucket we had. Okay, so those things will be used as a one of the stacks, okay, in full stack development. So the technologies that we can actually use to build these stacks. Okay, so like we will be using for the front end, as you see, we have React.js, AngularJS, Vue.js, etc. And for the back end, we have Django, Spring Boot. So if you go with Java, we will be using Spring Boot. Okay, if you go with Python, like you will be using Django. And also like we have version controls like Git, Bitbucket, SVN, Subversion, which means, okay, so those things will be used. And for the database, as I told, so these databases can be leveraged for building our web application. And cloud technologies, we have even more than this. Okay, we have AWS services and Azure, like so GCP is for Google, okay, for Google clouding platform. So Google Cloud Platform, those things will be used. And other technologies like Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform is to provision your server. Okay, so these things can be used with your development technologies, okay, to build a scalable web application. So like if you want to build an application that can be used by the users around the world, you have to do it in such a way that it shouldn't be broken in any aspects. Okay, so it shouldn't prone to errors, and it should be highly scalable, and it should be highly available to all the users, and it should respond really well in a very quick time with zero latency, not zero latency, with very low latency. Okay, so these are the things that matters a lot when we build a full stack web application. Okay, so like we have Mern stack, Mean stack, and Maven stack. Like with React we will say Mern stack, and for the Angular we will say Mean stack, and for the Vue.js we will say Maven stack, and Java stack, which is having Spring Boot at the backend, and serverless, which means like we will be opting some cloud services. Okay, so offered by AWS or Azure or GCP or any cloud technologies or cloud platforms that we have in our market. So those things will be made use of to build web applications. Okay, so after that we will also look into what natural language processing is. So as you told, like natural language processing is a subdivision in machine learning. Okay, so machine learning or deep learning. So the term machine learning and deep learning, so what is the difference between them, and why we actually saying it is and what is actually the AI means. Okay, so the thing is, like AI as a whole is an application of these paradigms, these divisions. Okay, so when we apply machine learning to a application, when we apply machine learning to our use case, okay, that is actually an artificial intelligence. So the artificial intelligence is a behavior, okay, that can be achieved via machine learning or deep learning. So then what is machine learning and deep learning? So machine learning is something that we are actually enabling the machine to learn, okay, from the user input. So from the test data, so which means we are feeding the data more and more, so that our model will actually respond to that, and we will be applying some mathematical expression on top of that. Okay, so those things combined together will make our model, or will make our application to predict something in some way. Okay, so this prediction might be accurate to our to the answer that we are expecting, or might not be accurate. Okay, so but it is actually predicting something. Okay, so like if it is predicting something, like we can actually like improve the prediction, right? So by giving more and more data and by setting right parameters at the very right time. Okay, so those things are very important while handling any natural language processing or any machine learning or deep learning use cases. Okay, so the machine learning is something that uh, a basic of these things. Okay, but deep learning we will be handling with tensors. Okay, tensors and vectors, we will be handling those things with that. Okay, and we will be having some neural networks. Okay, so these neural networks will be used to like re-evaluate every time, every now and then it will re-evaluate and it will be giving the output. Okay, so it on the like by consolidating all the outputs we will be getting some prediction out of it. Okay, so which means like we will be making use of neural networks in the deep learning, and these neural networks will have hidden layers, as many hidden layers as it wants. Okay, so these neural network will actually leverage these hidden layers. Hidden layers are something like we have an input layer and we have an output layer, and in between these two layers. Okay, so we can have as many as number of layers that we actually want. Okay, so that hidden layers, okay, are actually responsible for giving some good prediction, which will be better than way better than the machine learning task. Okay, so but to perform a deep learning operations on any data, like we have to have some highly powered computers, so that it will do those tasks in a very lesser time than it actually takes. Okay, so we will be using GPU or something highly computing devices. Okay, so those will be leveraged for handling deep learning. So the natural language processing is actually totally based on natural languages, so it can be of any languages from any region. Okay, so but the thing is we will be handling everything in numbers, zeros and ones. Okay, so like behind the scenes it is actually been done in such a way that we will be handling it in a mathematical way. Okay, so it doesn't matter what language you give, but if you give something relevant to the input that it has already been used to train the system. Okay, so then the right prediction will be given to you. Okay, so like the natural language processing is the ability, okay, to understand, okay, to making like to make our computers or devices to understand natural language, okay, as well as we do. Okay, so the way we actually understand the language, if I'm speaking in English, if you are understanding this, okay, so this is actually like we are already trained to understand English language, which anyone speaks. Okay, the one who speaks the English language will actually speak in a right way. Okay, that's how you can understand the language. If the people is speaking something other than English and saying it as English, how can we actually understand that? Okay, so it will not work in that way. In the same way, we will be actually training the machine to understand our the input that we are actually giving. Okay, so it can be a text input, it can be an audio input, or it can be any sign. Okay, if you are just smiling or if you are just giving some expressions, okay, with your hands or in like in your faces, so those things will actually be captured. Okay, and the data will be outputted. Okay, so like these are all the introduction to the machine learning, like in particular natural language processing, and the terminologies that we can actually make use of like that will be used in natural language. Natural language processing is like we have tokenization, we have stemming, lemmatization, stop words, parts of speech, bag of words, syntactic analysis, semantic analysis, and many. Okay, so we have also have n-grams. So these things will be discussed shortly. Okay, the main use cases that we have is like building chatbots, if you want to read some sentiment out of the reviews that we are already actually getting. Okay, so let's say if some movies releasing, okay, so we will actually get reviews from the fans, right? So to understand the emotions of the fans, okay, so like we have to read all the reviews that are posted by the fans, right? So by reading all of them, like we as a human can able to analyze the sentiment, analyze the emotion that the people are giving, okay, for this film. Okay, if everyone likes the film, like most of the people will be happy. Okay, so if majority of the people is so fed up, okay, they will be putting such comments. Okay, so in that, like we will be able to understand, okay, this film is not so good. Okay, so like that is actually the sentiment analysis. So we are actually enabling a application, okay, to understand the emotions of the inputs, not the users, the inputs. The inputs is actually be given by the users. Okay, so like as you see in real time, we will actually be using Alexa, okay, or Siri, something like that. All right, so if you are speaking to this Alexa or Siri, so it will actually sense your emotions, like by the tone you are speaking and by the slang. Okay, if you are just shouting like something, like it will actually able to understand that you are actually shouting. Okay, so that is actually the sentiment analysis. So the chatbot, like those Alexa and Siri have trained for very long and long. Okay, so it been trained for years. Okay, so that it is making some good predictions out of the trained data that has been fed over the years. Okay, so the another use case is like chatbots. Okay, the chatbots are one of the frequently used, okay, the widely used applications in most of the websites nowadays. Okay, moving forward, like we will also have as many as chatbots like with some real data like analysis. Okay, it will actually predict some data in a very good way, so that the companies will adopt to the chatbots rather than adopting for customer support, which requires mankind. Okay, manpower, which requires manpower. So these chatbot can actually replace the customer experience team, something like that, right? So those team can be replaced with these chatbots if it is intelligent enough to handle the queries of the customers. Okay, so and we also have a grammar checking. If it has some grammatical mistake, the content of our something like email or something other than that. Okay, so it will actually be used to check the grammar, and it will actually suggest us to correct the word. Okay, as you like I can give you an example on this. Okay, so we all might use Gmail. Okay, so whenever nowadays, like whenever you are just typing in, okay, so it will actually recommend you the next possible word. Okay, the next relevant word that you actually want to put in. Or if you are just giving some grammatical error in the statements, okay, so it will actually recommend you to correct that mistake. Okay, so that your email will be actually in a very good English, okay, with proper grammar. Okay, so those things are done using semantic analysis. So the semantic analysis or something like uh, it is actually dealing with grammatical errors. Okay, so which we actually which were actually used in sentences. Okay, and we also use translations, as we have already told, like Facebook uses translations and Google also have translations. Okay, so those translations are completely used or completely implemented using this natural language processing. Okay, with some deep learning model and stuff like that. So yeah, so let me just, yeah, I will come up to your questions like in a short while. Okay, So after having our slides discussed, like we will be having a QA session in between, so that I will address all your queries, okay, that are posted in the chat. Okay, so yeah, so the next thing is something, the NLP, as I've told, like natural language processing is a submodule in machine learning or deep learning. Okay, so those things can be implemented by building a model from scratch by either using Python, or we have a language called R, and we also use C++, JavaScript, any languages. Okay, but for today's session we will be using NLE platform. Okay, NLE platform in the sense natural language understanding. Okay, so the NLP is a wider area, so everything cannot be implemented, okay, with the platforms like this. Okay, so NLU is something, it actually understand the query. Okay, it will actually understand the user input, and it will respond quite relevant to the input that we have given. So we have several NLE platforms in the market. For Google, we have Dialogflow, and for Amazon, for AWS, we have Lex, and for the Azure, okay, for the Microsoft, we have bot framework, and we will be integrating the bot framework with Microsoft Louis and Q&A maker to just make some interesting conversations and putting them all together to build a chatbot model. Okay, so these are the stacks that we can actually use, and we have so many others as well. We have IBM Watson, and we have something called Orbita agent. Okay, so those things can actually be used. Okay, but these are the pioneers in NLU. Okay, so we will actually like most of the people might use Amazon Lex. Okay, so the Amazon Lex is something that is offered by Amazon, which is in the AWS. Like there are several advantages to use Amazon Lex, is something that most of our applications, okay, whatever the applications you use nowadays, okay, most of the companies, about 60 to 70% of the companies are actually using AWS. So most of the platforms are there in the AWS, hosted in the AWS. Okay, so in some way or other, they are actually leveraging the resources that AWS provides. So which means like AWS has everything to operate a company. Okay, so Amazon Lex is one of the services that AWS provides. It is for natural language understanding use cases. So since I told like there were several other services, so we can easily have integrations, okay, between those services. So for that reasons, people will actually use Amazon Lex. Okay, and we also have a active community, so very large community for this Amazon Lex, Dialogflow, and all those platforms. Okay, but for today's session we'll be using Dialogflow, which is offered by Google, which is quite easy, and which we understand the components that we have in the Dialogflow. Okay, so these components are actually used in all the NLU platforms, but the name might be different. Okay, but the concepts are the same. Okay, so let us go on and like have a view on how NLE platforms work. So the NLE platforms, as I told, like the task of the NLE platforms is to understand what the user is saying, what the user is giving as an input. Okay, so it actually understand the context, and it actually understand, okay, what is he actually saying, so that I can process the thing that we actually already have in our code base or knowledge base. Okay, and we will be throwing the most relevant answers to the user. So in that case, like NLP platforms will also serve speech recognition. Okay, speech recognition in the sense, if we can also, I've told you, right, so we can also give input either by speech or by text. Okay, So it actually understands the user's input, and it will be converted into text. Okay, and the NLU model, we will be having several components inside this NLU model. Okay, we will also see that those components that are there in the NLU models, and by just triggering one of the contents. Okay, so one of the components, so it will actually, and like it will actually get the relevant response. Okay, now it has some response with it, so it will then send us the response in a text way. And the text, like since we are giving the input in audio form, like we will be getting back the input in audio form, right? So the text will then be converted into text to speech, which is offered by like some platforms like Google. We also have text to speech, and we also have Amazon. Like in Amazon, we also have the text to speech feature. Okay, so this is for the happy flow. And what if the NLU doesn't recognize the input that is already there in the knowledge base? So it will actually hit the external API. Okay, the external API in the sense our backend application that is hosted in different regions. So let's say it has three systems. So in our case, we will be having one backend app. Okay, so the API will then be hit to the backend app that we have with the data. Okay, so it will then process our input, and it will then just give what the relevant response is. So this is how NLE platforms will actually work. We will actually we will actually start to build a chatbot application very shortly. Okay, but before that, we just want to know what are all the components that we have in Dialogflow. Okay, so these are all the components that we have. We have intent. Okay, and we will be getting the query, and it will check for intent is something that we are intent to get something, which means like if I'm having a use case, like I have to build a e-commerce site. Okay, the e-commerce site has to be the natural language understanding. Yeah, so the e-commerce site has some use case to build a chatbot model. Okay, so that it takes some orders, and it will process the orders. Okay, so if I'm intended to buy a mobile phone. Okay, so I will be giving like I'm looking for a mobile phone, right? So to the chatbot, so what the chatbot understands, okay, the user is looking for a mobile phone. Okay, the looking for a mobile phone is an intent, which means like user is going to buy a mobile phone. So that is the intent. Okay, so we will be naming an intent like buy mobile phone, something like that, so that by giving some appropriate query, it will actually trigger this intent. So we have several other intents as well, like we will be buying laptops. Okay, so we have buy mobile phones, buy laptops, or buy some headphones, something like that. Okay, so those things are three intents. Okay, so these three things like will be addressing three different task. Okay, so the buy mobile phone will actually not collide with the laptop or headphones. Okay, so we will be buying the like the chatbot will give us some suggestions on the mobile phone that is there in their warehouse. Okay, that is available in their website. And we will also see some new models that have arrived right then. Okay, so those things will be populated in the chatbot, and we'll be selecting any one of them. Okay, and we'll be processing the payment and all those things for that particular mobile. So this is actually the use case. Okay, so this is actually the conversation flow. So if I'm giving a query, So it will actually go on to find which intent is matching to this query. Okay, so if buy mobile phone, okay, I'm looking for a mobile phone, so this is actually relevant to buy mobile phone intent. Okay, I'm looking for something like I'm looking for a watch. Okay, so we already have three intents, which is mobile phone, laptops, and headphones. Okay, so those three intents is not relevant to the watch intent, which means like there is no intent that is dedicated for buying a watch. So in that case, it will actually doesn't understand the term watch. Okay, so it will just again ask, can you please repeat the same? Okay, so can you please come again, something like that. Okay, so the user will give some correct question, like again he's actually looking for a watch, so like he is giving some brand of the watch and with some proper information. Even for that, it doesn't recognize the user input, which means like only if we define an intent, okay, then only will actually be getting the response from the chatbot. Okay, so the intent is something like we are intended to do something. So I have an intention to buy a mobile phone, so that is how you will be taking this. Okay, so we also have something called entities. Entities is actually be used within the intents. Okay, we will actually see that in our implementations. Okay, so let us go on and create our chatbot. Okay, with by using Dialogflow, right? So like let me take a few minutes here. Okay, so to address all your questions, and let us have a like a short like let me before jumping into the next session, okay, which is the actual implementation, we will be addressing all those queries that have been raised in the chat box. Okay, so one of the guys have said like we need to open the ID. Okay, no need to open the ID. Okay, so and some has asked, is there any basic prerequisite requirement for this session or something like that? Okay, so you don't have to have a prerequisite. Okay, so but if you are more interested in learning full stack development, so you can just start with this. Okay, so but for implementing natural language processing or full stack development by integrating both of them, like clubbing them together to have an application for a use case. Okay, for that you have to have some programming language knowledge. Okay, so and also you need to know how the communication has been made between applications, so from front end to back end and back end to database. Okay, how these communications are made, so those things you have to understand before implementing these use cases. Okay, so to start with, you have to learn JavaScript. Okay, so you have to get better at it, and you have to learn some a framework for the front end and a framework for the back end to implement. Okay, a full stack application comprises of a front end, back end, and database, right? So that is a very basic basic something called setup. Okay, so these three stacks will be covered. Okay, so those three things have to be learned before starting with any advanced concepts. Okay, and for the natural language processing and for the data science or machine learning, those things, okay, you have to have some Python knowledge. Okay, and you have to be good at mathematics and statistics. Okay, so like you will be dealing with data more and more. So like I will give you an example on that. What we are daily searching something in Google, right? So whatever we are actually having in our mind. We are just throwing those words in the search bar and we are just giving an enter, and the Google is getting those data and giving some relevant, not some relevant, it is quite relevant answers have been thrown to us, okay, in the search engine. So how this actually been achieved? Okay, so how the search engine works? Okay, so like how many data that it is collecting in a daily basis. Okay, so you have to think it that way. Okay, so those data, how those data has been used. Okay, so where does that data go? So those things will actually be used. Okay, actually the data is not in a proper format, so everyone is putting the data in their very own format. Okay, the machine is able to understand those data. So though that is actually a part of data engineering. Okay, so the raw data can be cleaned and processed and maintained in a format in such a way that machine understands. Okay, so those things will come into the picture. Okay, so to start with machine learning, you have to have a Python knowledge and you have to have mathematical background. Okay, and yeah, we can also use other languages as well, but Python is quite friendly, and we have major community support. Okay, so most of the developers around the world use Python for machine learning and deep learning task. So the natural language processing, yeah, natural language processing, as I've told, like it is dealing with natural languages, so either it be English or anything. Okay, so what are the things that we face while using some language? So we use, like, we don't understand the language. We as a human face those struggles, right? So we don't know the grammar and we don't get the context of what the people is saying. So those things will actually be the gray area for machines as well. So we'll be addressing those gray areas by putting in some mathematical expressions. So why MERN is so impressive? Okay, so not just MERN, we have several other stacks. Okay, the MERN is quite easy to learn to get start. Okay, that's why we are actually using MERN. Okay, even MERN is also used in many organizations. Okay, that can actually be scalable to a very good extent. So to start with the full stack development, MERN is the right way to do it. Okay, so you can start with any framework or any languages as you prefer, but to understand the concepts in a very detailed way, the implementation has to be easy, right? So for the purpose, like MERN is being used. Okay, we can also switch to mean Maven or some Java or Python stacks. Okay, so that you can also make use of them to implement your front end, back end, or implementing your databases. Okay, so what is Dialogflow? Yeah, Dialogflow is actually a natural language understanding platform, okay, which is offered by Google. So the Dialogflow is actually used to understand the data. Okay, so this is one of the services. I'm not saying that you have to use Dialogflow or Amazon Lux or any of these services, but for a very easiest way, we can make use of these platforms to build a chatbot model that can be actually integrated with our applications. Okay, so it is a easy go to implement our natural language use cases. So yeah, natural language understanding is the full form of NLU. Can you explain intent? Yeah, so I've explained the intent part, right? So webhooks, yeah, all those intents and entities and the components that are there in the dialog flow, we will actually be seeing while implementing the model. Okay, and then we will be integrating that model with our application. Do we need to learn other languages like PHP or C++ or more? No need of that. Okay, so first stick to your basics. Okay, so whichever the language you are started using, okay, so you just stick to it and get some advanced knowledge, in-depth knowledge in those technologies. And if your work or if your job demands some new languages to be learned, okay, then you go on and learn the languages. Okay, so first you just go on with the technologies that you are actually working, and get some good idea on that. Okay, so like don't I suggest that don't be a jack of all trade, like master of none, something like that. Okay, so just stick to one of the languages and be a master in it. So yeah, let me hand up to the coordinator now, the session now. So I will be continuing with the implementations of these NLP models, okay, with our chatbot application very shortly.
Okay, so now we have with us our student counselor, Mr. Manjunath, who will be taking care of the session now. So over to you, Manjunath.
So yeah, hi learners and hi guys. So very good evening. So yeah, so I'm myself Manjunath here. So this next 15 minutes, you guys, whatever the presentation or whatever I'm going to explain, it's completely for you guys, like especially who's trying to start your career as a full stack developer, or someone who's trying to upskill yourself, or if someone is planning to switch your career into full stack. So this 15 minutes, it will be most valuable for you because it helps you to make up a decision. Okay, like it also helps you to take up the first step to become a full stack developer. So starting with like here you can see like all the three people, like our founders, CEO and co-founders. So like the common thing between these three people, if you see, like PayPal and PayPal, which means they are from like they are also the industry experts who are actually the ex-employees of some top product based companies. Okay. Yeah. And so these are our noteworthy and recent recognition. If you can see, like we are actually IIT Madras incubated company, of course. And again, we even our IIM Ahmedabad is also our incubator. And you can see like Google Launchpad Accelerator, then GeoGen Next, then Action for India, and like empower accelerating women entrepreneurship. So these are our like recognition, noteworthy recognitions. And this is the picture where you can see our our CEO as well as our co-founder. This was taken with like during the meet with like Ministry of Education. So this was a meetup where where like GUVI has partnered with Government of India in providing programming skills to underprivileged children. And exactly a year back, like this was also a tweet which was posted by Ministry of Education when we had achieved this feat, like Guinness World Record for training more than like 1.5 lakh candidates in the, like in an event called AI for India, and we have achieved this Guinness World Record as well. And this is IIT Madras. So most of you, once you completed your higher secondary, would have planned to get into IIT. So you would have written some exams, but still, like most of us had dreamt of getting into this IIT. But again, luckily, if you see, like GUVI is an IIT Madras incubated company, and of course, we are located in IIT itself. So this is just the picture of IIT here. And this is how our office is. This is like it's in IIT Madras Research Park in Chennai. So this is like how our office looks like. And also, if you see, we are actually officially authorized as a Google for Education partner. And so here you can see, like we are actually so we have some more recognition as well. Like we are accredited with and, I mean like with NASCOM, AWS. Then it's an IIT Madras and IIM Ahmedabad incubated company. Then ISO 27001 to 9001. Then Google for Education partner. Then AI for India, that is Guinness World Record. IBM, all these things. Okay. So here, coming to this program details, so I'll just tell you what sort of training and what sort of content we provide for the learners. So first thing is like here you can see this is a customized content. Okay, so it doesn't mean like only these things will be there. It's completely customized. So based on learners' preferences, we'll be giving training. Like you can see like we have Python or Java or C or C++, .NET or PHP, whatever it is, will be there. Like we have all the sort of trainings, and then like we have HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, then AngularJS, React.js, Node.js, AWS, MySQL, MongoDB, then data structure and algorithms, and you'll also have a Capstone project. Okay, so here if you see like the entire front end, back end, database as well as cloud technologies are also covered here. Yeah, so trainers, if you see since we are an IIT's IIT Madras incubated institute, so obviously we focus more on the quality part of training. So to ensure the quality, if you see like our high profile mentors for this Zen classes, like Mr. Arun, of course, our CEO, he's an ex PayPal, ex Cementech, and then like Honeywell employee, and we have Mr. Anand from Zoho, and some other industry experts like Mr. Kabilan from Freshworks, Mr. Dinesh from Samsung, and Mr. Milch from Google. Okay, and some more names like Mr. Monish from Microsoft, and Mr. Like Arul from Microsoft Azure, then Mr. Pragdish from ThoughtWorks, and Mr. Vimal from Jespay, he's the CEO of Jespay, then Mr. Vilva Atiban from Flipkart, and of course we have a mentor from Apple as well, and then we have PayPal, like Mr. Kesavan from PayPal. Okay, and these are some of the customized projects which our which we will be doing during the training, customized Gmail client using Gmail API, then Instagram in React, then YouTube radio, then similar kind of this music streaming app like Spotify, then Google Docs clone. All this will be the real time, the customized real time projects which we'll be doing here. And here you can see some of our instructors. So we have Mr. Sanatan Sugija, he's a doctorate and he's from IIT Ropar, and Dr. Yayati Gupta, she's also a doctorate from IIT Ropar. Yeah, and as I told earlier, like we have mentors, from top, like top MNCs and top product-based companies. So like companies like Google, like Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, PayPal, Freshworks, Honeywell, Justpay, and so on. Okay, and of course we have more than 300 plus product based companies tied up with us. So here are some of the examples of our product based companies where our alumni are working in. So here are some top reasons why you'll have to opt for this GUVI's 100% placements program. Okay, so first point, if you see, GUVI is the only institute which is to be located in IIT Madras. Okay, and it was started, run, and managed with IIT Madras Research Park. Okay, and also you can see like it was
have some implementations so on the topics that we have seen this far. So let me share the screen and just I will give you a quick demo on the implementation that we have seen. Okay, so like one of the guys have asked me like what is actually the differences between the chatbot application and the other applications, which means the chatbot is for like a chatting application, the messaging applications. Okay, so the other application, which is actually the web application, whichever the application that you are using in the browser, right? So that is actually a web application. If you are using it in a mobile phone, it is a native application. Okay, so you just install it and use it in your mobile phones. And for the chat application, it may be either browser based or your native applications like you use in mobile phones. Okay, so the chatbot application is to like you have used messengers or WhatsApp or some other messaging platforms, right? So those things will be the communication between the two users from end to end, right? So but here the one is the user and the other is the bot. Okay, which is an agent, like an automatic agent, like which will address our queries. So yeah, let me just show you like what is Dialogflow as we have to seen. Like let me just give us quick demo on the things that we have implemented now. Okay, so Dialogflow, to start with Dialogflow, we have to go on the link like google.dialogflow.com, right? So I can share you this link so that you can just explore this when you get time, so that you will find it useful if you face any NLP related use cases in your future. So this is the Dialogflow URL. So while clicking that, we have to sign in with our Google account, right? So with our Google account, if we are signing in, like we will be having the console. As I told, the intent is something that the intention that we actually want to perform. So welcome intent, which is used to greet the user whenever the user is using our application. And the mobile intent, as I told, like I want to order mobile, okay, I will be using this intent. And placing order is something like I have selected a mobile and I will be placing that mobile to my order, so that I will make my payment and all those things. Okay, webbook and like these intents or some additional intents. I've tested my webbook is some external code, okay, that is actually used in our code base, that will be deployed in the server. Okay, that will be actually used with this Dialogflow console. Okay, so this is actually the intent. So intent is something, the intention that we actually want to perform. Okay, and the entities are something that some keywords. Okay, the keywords that we can actually give to while searching input query. So in our case, I'm searching mobiles of these brands. Okay, Apple, Samsung, OnePlus. I can give some related synonyms. Okay, these related keywords are pointing to Apple. Okay, and same like that. So if I'm giving any one of these, it will actually point that I'm searching for Apple or Samsung or OnePlus. Okay, that is actually entity is actually the keyword that can be used in intents. So if I'm going into one of the intents here, so I'll be giving some all possible training phrases. So I'm just giving 3 training phrases. Okay, so how can a user say the same thing in a different way? So that is actually the training phrase. So we can say a single thing like with a single meaning, but in a different way we can actually say it, right? So in the same way, we have to feed the data, like the possible training phrases. So with this data, our chatbot will actually train. Okay, I'm saying that looking for a mobile phone, or okay, iPhone or OnePlus phone or Samsung, it can be anything. So that's why I'm just pointing it as a mobile brands. Okay, so in the place of iPhone, it can be anything, OnePlus or Samsung or Sony, anything. Okay, cell phone, or I would like buy a mobile phone or something like that. So once if I'm doing this, I will be placing a custom payload, okay, which has a list of products in this is mobile phone. Okay, mobile iPhone 13 Pro, iPhone 12. Okay, so in the case of Apple, okay, in the case of Samsung, I will be placing another set of data for that relevant input. Okay, so this is actually our chatbot agent. Okay, so the agent is test bot. I'm having an intent called mobile intent, and with the training phrases and an entity to denote the mobile brand, and the response that will actually be thrown while hitting this intent. Okay, so I'm using the save to save all the changes that I've made here. Okay, so and also I have another intent like placing order. Placing order in the sense I will be placing add iPhone to the cart, or place this order to my address, something like that. Okay, add to cart something. If I'm giving this, so I will be getting all the details that I'm needed to. Okay, getting address, city, the name that we actually want to give. Okay, brand name, if we has mentioned already, so it will already going to the brand name and it will automatically fill. Okay, but we are getting these details to ship the product. Okay, so like this is the response. Dear, the given name will be like your order has been placed to the address and so on. So okay, this is the response that will be actually made here. So this is the chatbot console. Okay, Dialogflow console, which will be used here. Okay, so if I just want to build a chatbot application, so I have used React.js for the front end. Okay, and for the backend, I have used Node.js and Express, and for the database, I have used MongoDB, as I told you, right? So client is actually act as my front end. So client is the client facing, which means the front end, right? The server is actually acts as my which actually be my backend. So in the backend, I'm using Dialogflow, like I'm using Mongoose to connect with MongoDB, and for server, like I'm using some routes to handle Dialogflow queries. Okay, Dialogflow will be installed here, okay, in our code, which is JavaScript code. Okay, so I can just give you the GitHub link so that you can just go through this. Like to start with, like you will get time to understand the code, but moving forward after a course of time, like you easily understand the concept that has been implemented here. Okay, so this is actually our backend server, and this is the front end. Front end is actually the UI representation of the our application. So in this case, I'm using React.js for the front end. Okay, and I'm using chatbot models, and the chatbot.js is the main file that is being used to handle all our queries here. Okay, so I can give you a small demo on how it can actually be implemented. So I will be running this in localhost in my local. Okay, so this is actually the chatbot application. So as you see here, so welcome to our space, may I help you? So if I'm refreshing this, the same intent will not come again. Okay, so it will give us some other output. Okay, greetings, this is Farook's bot, how can I help you? Let's say I'm looking for an iPhone. Okay, so iPhone is why it is actually not taking the brand. Okay, it is saying that iPhone is actually a brand of Apple. So that's why it is actually giving us the list. Okay, so if I'm just giving something like place this order. Okay, so place this order, the bot is asking enter the address. Okay, so let me just give you something like Gindi, something like 10 or oh, so if I'm giving something like this, so it is taking as the address. Okay, right? So if I'm giving the city as Chennai, so I'm giving this city as Chennai, it is taking this. And if I'm giving the separate name, okay, Farook. Okay, so I'm getting the responses. Dear Farook, your order has been placed to the address 10 Outer Ring Road, Gindi, Chennai. Thank you for your purchase. So something like that. Okay, so which is actually a normal conversation that we actually make with the shopkeeper, right? So this is actually not fed in the exact input or exact output. Okay, but if I'm giving some relevant input, okay, by missing some values, okay, it will actually able to understand the input that user is giving. So let's say if I'm just refreshing this, okay, so if I'm just giving like I'm looking for a mobile. Okay, so please specify the brand it is asking. But for the first time it was not asking the brand, it is actually taking the Apple. Okay, but now why it is actually asking for the brand? Because I'm not giving any brand in my query, right, in my input. So here I'm just using Apple is my brand, fine. So I'll be getting the Apple phones. Okay, so I'm selecting any one of the phones. If I'm just selecting iPhone 12, right, so it is actually taking like iPhone 12, right? So it is actually taking the iPhone. Okay, then place this order is the keyword. Please provide the address, something like T Nagar, Chennai, and recipient's name something like John something. Yeah, so dear John, your order has been placed to the address T Nagar, Chennai. Thank you for your purchase. So something like that. Okay, so this is actually the chatbot. Okay, this is actually the application. Okay, basic application that will take your query and it will process your query and it will send back to the Dialogflow, and this data flow will actually process the query and it will give back to the application, so that you get the response like you see here, right? So this is the basic implementation on the chatbot applications. Okay,